I'm Marjory Wentworth, one of the co-editors of Center of Gravity, the most recent issue of About Place Journal. And I want to thank my co-editors, Orchid Tierney and Gerald Coleman. It was a great team putting this issue together. I also want to thank the managing editor and director of the Black Earth Institute, Michael McDermott, and Jake Healing, I hope I'm saying it right, who's been managing the technical side, and Stephanie Fasadi, who's also helping with the technical side. There are Wisconsin techno wizards. And before we begin, I think it would be appropriate to just have a brief moment of silence for Nadik Jalil, who was our cover artist for this issue, his incredible piece, The Unmasking. And I think we found out that he passed away suddenly the day before the issue was released. So I just ask that we think of him and just have a brief moment of silence. Thank you. All right, so tonight we're going to hear from 10 contributors, and I'm really excited to hear these pieces that I've read so often. And I'll introduce the writer, and they will read. And for those of you in the audience who have questions, there's a chat on the YouTube station, and you can put your questions in there. And we'll try to leave like 10 or 15 minutes toward the end for you to ask questions. So our first reader is Kari Gunter-Seymour, and she's going to be reading, I believe, her poem Inclinations, which was nominated for a Pushcart Prize just recently. She is currently the Ohio State Poet Laureate and the 2020 Ohio Poet of the Year. She's an artist in residence at the Wexner Center for the Arts and the founder and executive director of Women of Appalachia Project. And her two books are Alone in the House of My Heart and A Place So Deep Inside America It Can't Be Seen. Please welcome Kari Gunter-Seymour.
Hello, everyone. Inclinations. Here in the holler, we tap our mouths to warm our hands, a rugged edge of teeth exposed between foggy slips of breath. All winter, our joints ache, and our bodies think of leaving in ways only ancestors could understand. Without a trace of irony or blush of shame, we'll pull the pickup over, watch the foothills turn russet at sunset, talk to clouds through February, till the earth comes spring, sit front and center to a weave of nest set to hatch its crooners, tears in our eyes, press hell-bent into the great why of summer. All that matters is the heat, the harvests, prayers for rain, little we or the plants can do but endure. When the mulberries cease their fruiting and maples go kamikaze red, we plow down the cornfields, gardens too, don our flannel, ponder our shrinking frames, bones calcifying, same way a crusted plow rusts itself back to nature. Thank you all so much to all of you out there who are listening, and for all the good folks at Black Earth Institute, and to my colleagues for having me here tonight.
Great to hear you read it. Thank you, Kari. All right, our next reader is Len Lawson. He's going to be reading his poem, My South Carolina Concealed Weapons Permit Instructor Notices That My Driver's License Mistakenly Indicates I Am Not a Black Male. I got that right, Len? Len Lawson is an assistant professor of English at Newberry College in South Carolina. He's also a friend of mine, and I haven't seen him in quite a while, so it's great to see him on the screen. He's the author of Negro Asylum for the Lunatic Insane and Chime, two different collections. He's also the co-editor of The Future of Black Afrofuturism, Black Comics and Superhero Poetry, and also Hand in Hand, Poets Respond to Race. Please welcome Len Lawson.
Thank you, Marjory. Good to see you too. Good to see everyone here as contributors. And thank you to About Place Journal and the Black Earth Institute for this opportunity. So I'm not going to reread my title since it's pretty long, but I'll just start the poem. The word black is a gong in the lady's throat, scrapes the walls of her cheeks, cracks her uvula, searches the worn grooved tongue, rolls itself around. A dog learning to scratch its back in tall grass, lolling tongue escaping the beast's mouth through jagged bone. Between us, a steel shadow clutches the instructor's hip, echoing in her laugh where she finds a home. I want to hide in its emptiness, bury my head in its barrel, rest it below the hammer's punch, baptize myself in its imminent fire. She seals my documents with a milky tone, holds my indigo-stained fingers to the pad, the ink still fresh from my Igbo brethren crushing the plant on Beaufort shores. I'm just up the road from their bones in John's Island fan. I hear their hollow, blade my tongue in their chants, fish my heart with flaming nets, rife with gun smoke, brooding. I am boiling dye, simmering in a cauldron. My stench rises to her nostrils. My ringing hands remember the shot I just aimed, flames just tamed, quenching my people's thunder. No, we are not the same. She feels I will not laugh with her. She releases my soiled fingers. I release her cold shadow. Thank you.
I'm not sure what happened there in the middle. I'm so sorry. Could everyone hear it? I'm not sure. Well, hopefully, maybe you'll get a chance to read another one later. Thank you, Len. All right, our next up is Cheryl J Fish. And I think she's going to read Iceland 14 Overturn and then part of 2 Abecedar. I can never say it. You know what I'm talking about. But Cheryl is a professor of English at BMCC City University of New York and docent at University of Helsinki. Her books include a debut novel, Off the Yoga Mat, and The Sauna is Full of Maids, which is a book of poems and photographs sort of about Finnish culture and some in particular other topics. And then also Crater and Tower, a collection of poems. So please welcome Cheryl J Fish.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks to About Place Journal and Black Earth Institute for this opportunity. So this first poem is from a manuscript in progress based on Icelandic geology, myth, and observation. Iceland 14, Overturn. 1 minute it rains around the corner, the wind blows you inside out, then the sun glistens on basalt cliff where gulls or terns dive to let you know you don't belong in their nesting areas. Then a car speeds by and almost hits you, then you almost step in horse shit or sheep shit. You need your hat as the wind comes up. You wish you hadn't said that to them. Then you get back in the car and notice a waterfall dropping off a cliff. From this angle, go into the nothingness of somethingness, madness or gladness. You stop wishing and just wander in the soft moss, in the rocky field, in the rain, in the river, in the lava remnants, with the terns and gulls and ducks protecting their nests and outnumbering humans by a multitude. Yesterday, you met an American philosopher burned out on academe who hides from the world, watching horses on a farm, driving to the edge of nowhere in the midnight sun, mostly in the wee hours, since he cannot sleep. Before you met him, you had walked alone on the small island in the river Blanda, not bland, but flowing from the northwest side of the Hofsjökull Glacier into Hunafloy Bay. You saw gray-lag geese and goslings. Later, you drank beer with artists. A painter's husband had a mini stroke that night. You were sitting across from him. Go soak in the geothermal pools. Your skin smells like sulfur as long as you're in Northwest Iceland. And then you hear the US Supreme Court overturn Roe v. Wade while you stare at gray clouds in a village of fishermen and birds. Time reverts to stones packed inside lava mounds. Elves live in certain rocks. They ask us not to overturn them, not to destroy the balance between light and the times the sun will never shine. And my second poem is actually the middle of three abecedarians called Infrastructure. It's based on an imaginary journey I would take with my father, who passed away about 4 years ago. So, for Joseph H. Fish. And an abecedarian means that every line starts with the next letter of the alphabet. So on the page, when you'd read this, you'd see I capitalize the first letter of every line, A, B, C, D, etc. So when I'm reading it, you may not notice it, but it's more of a textual thing. A feat of engineering on an island in Munich's River Isar, the Deutsches Museum brings science and technology to the public with research facilities and small bedrooms corralled amid old spaceships, a nuclear fission table, 560 war and invasion reports. Dark hall sleep visiting scholars, gates to buzz open, a cafeteria where everyone must line up, no snagging a plate or a piece of fruit. From the central salad bar, Dad, it felt alien to go to Munich to present on infrastructure, in that infrastructure. Heady with staircases and closed wings, cubicles and echoes inside research rooms, an antique building, gabled windows on an island with a jutting observation tower. Imagine I'm the only one sleeping there that weekend. Kept on haunting me, motion detectors, long echoing hallways, and flies in bathroom stalls. Left me taking sleeping pills, dreaming of Allied bombs in response to Hitler's bombs. Much wandering in Old Town, then a drunk fellow asked me to come to a Bayern München game. No thanks, I said. Dad, would you have shrugged or snored through such emptiness? On a long, cold weekend in that 1903 Behemoth, I chatted with a number of people. Servers, bartenders, shoppers, strangers, sipping mulled wine by a fire pit. Questioned them about their lives. When you did that on family trips, how it embarrassed Renee and me to listen to you chat up staff at Colonial Williamsburg or Howard Johnson's. Silly me, now I do it too. I'm more like Anthony Bourdain, scarfing street food, observing time and the effects of globalization, eating Turkish mesas you would never try. Up in the hallway, I thought I heard something, could be anything in chaotic, frightening times. When you died, Trump was only a loose thread sticking out. I spent time that weekend examining environmental books at the Rachel Carson Center. Soon a global pandemic erupted. Year 2020 about to dawn, you gone from this madness. After your war, nothing measured up. Zero. Thank you.
So much. I'm just so enjoying hearing these pieces. This is amazing. Next up, we have Leath, Tonino. It's going to be reading some prose. And Leath is a freelance writer. He was published. Oh, I don't know what just happened. Leath, are you having some sound trouble? I don't know. I think maybe you should sign in and sign back on. I think you should sign in and sign back on, maybe. I don't know what happened. Yikes. Why don't we go to our next poet and then we'll come back and see if he gets his sound fixed. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think so. It's like when you're doing a reading and the mic goes crazy, right? So here now we have to deal with this new. It's always technology. Could we hear from Michelle? Because I think she's next up. Yeah, Michelle Reese, who's going to do a poem for us. She's a professor of English at USC Sumter and another South Carolina poet. She's the author of the poetry collection Following Thea, and her poems have appeared in many journals and anthologies, including Chemistry of Color, Cave Canem's South Poets Responding to Art, and Hand in Hand Poets Respond to Race, and Home is Where, an anthology of African-American poets from the Carolinas. So please welcome Michelle Reese.
Thank you, Marjory, About Place Journal and the Black Earth Institute. I'm writing a diversity statement after 2020. You create a colorful list and varied list of discrimination that will not be tolerated. You reject systematic bias and violence. You address a shameful past, promise a better future, but the names you know are limited. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, awful as their murders were. Police also shot and killed 171 Hispanics. Antonio Valenzuela was put in a vascular neck restraint, never to regain consciousness, and charges against the officer dismissed. Do you know Jane Thompson, who was dead named and misgendered after being shot by a trooper sent on a wellness check? You would not be able to discover why Brandon Leducer was shot an unknown amount of times by police in his home on the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation. The Native Americans are most likely to die from police shootings than any other American.
All right, thank you. I loved hearing that. Thank you so much. Michelle, I haven't seen you for a long time either, so this is great. So Leath, how you doing? Yeah. Still have like, no. Maybe try a quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry.
The readers who have to read.
I couldn't hear. Send us a message in the chat and we'll see if we can work it out. It's so frustrating because I don't know how to help them. I wish I could. Next up is Allison Cobb. So although Allison lives in Portland, Oregon, correct? She's a native of Los Alamos, New Mexico, and has produced work around that. She's the Senior Director for Equity and Justice at the Environmental Defense Fund. She's also the author of 4 books, Plastic and Autobiography, Greenwood, After All We Died, and Born To, and her work has appeared in Best American Poetry and numerous journals. So please welcome Allison Cobb.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to read from an essay that is in the journal called You Are My Garbage, The Unbearable Intimacy of Waste. In the seed of all touch is a need. A few years ago, Martin Bork stuck a GPS transponder into a bale of plastic and paper shipped from the Ecology Center in Berkeley, California. Bork directs the center, which runs one of the oldest curbside recycling programs in the US, but he did not know in the murky network of global trade where the items collected for recycling ended up. What we found confirms some of our worst nightmares, he told an NPR reporter. He tracked the waste to a town in China where residents described a canyon of garbage that could not be recycled and plastic clogging local farm fields. In 2019, nearly every country in the world agreed to restrict the international trade in plastic waste. Shipments would be allowed only with prior written consent of the importing country. The US did not ratify this agreement. As a result, it should be banned from exporting waste to most of the world. But after the agreement went into effect, plastic exports from the US increased. Violence vibrates in the word touch from its birth. Its root is from the Latin tocare, to knock or strike. Beauty is here also. The word may be imitative in origin, to strike as in a bell, a word resounding through centuries of air. Touch travels far. To be violent, a touch need not be a strike. Look at the marks. A beige of slick of plastic bags covers a tropical beach. Toxic smoke pours from chimneys in a town where people burn waste plastic for cooking because it is cheaper than wood fuel. Two humans scale a mountain of gaudily colored trash to collect anything of value. Among the sickening mass are familiars, a Dasani water bottle, a Trader Joe's package, a plastic AARP card with an individual's name on it. Touch is the oldest sense, the first to evolve, and it is the first to develop in utero. Skin forms from the same cells that become brain and spinal cord. One scientist wrote that the skin could be considered an extension of the nervous system turned outward to the world. An item I know, one that touched my life. Let's say that AARP card that I admit I too received, and wrinkling my nose, discarded inappropriately into the recycling, not wanting to confront my aging or the laughable impossibility of retiring. These objects passed through my fingers. Now I can imagine that they touch the green gloved hand of a person wearing a cobalt blue shirt and a red hair clip, identified as a migrant worker sorting waste at the Thai Plastic Recycle Group outside Bangkok. Human touch is exquisitely sensitive. It can distinguish between two materials that look identical and differ only in a single layer of molecules. The surface area created by the ridges in human fingers, unique to each individual, enable this minute discernment. But touch is not only about navigating the physical environment. The act of touching lights up a part of the brain responsible for interpreting the feelings of others. Touch enables humans to feel with one another. Some touching in the Anthropocene is consensual, much is not. Virtually every person living in industrial societies carries in their body chemicals found in plastics, pesticides, flame retardants, and air pollution. These toxins touch and mix with our own molecules. Infants come into the world with dozens of these chemicals already circulating in their bloodstreams, absorbed unwittingly from the mother's placenta. Skin hunger is a medical condition, also known as touch starvation. Humans, like worms, rats, monkeys, and many other animals, require touch for proper development. Touch regulates growth hormones, digestion, and the formation and functioning of the immune system. It is possible to read terrible stories of orphanages where children were provided for in every way but touch. They grew to only half the size expected and could not walk on weakened legs. In the same way that narrowed tree rings indicate years of drought, human bones show lines of slower growth during times of deprived touch. If to be human is in some foundational way to be relational, to be in relation with others, then touch makes our very humanity possible. But touch can also make us monsters. People in the US and around the world choke and die from the waste of the wealthy. It is easy for me, living in privilege, to ignore this, to ignore the pollutants circulating through my own cells, touching me in the most intimate of ways. I can let that annoying plastic AARP card drop from my grasp without another thought. This is the easeful amnesia that makes global capitalism possible. I am one hand of the fossil fuel and petrochemical industries, leaving violent prints all over Earth. But when we touch each other, we know. That is the hard part. Knowing makes the status quo intolerable. The structures of capital, the basis for the global economy, must change. Wealthy corporations can no longer escape responsibility for producing waste that will last forever. This level of change may feel daunting, impossible. Capitalism structures nearly every human action. But then, as Ursula Le Guin pointed out in her famous speech at the National Book Awards, so too did the divine right of kings, and now that is unimaginable. Le Guin said, "Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings." That requires us first to be human, and that means awakening fully to the ways we touch each other. Thank you.
So powerful. You got lots of great notes in the chat. It's just such a powerful piece. Thank you so much. That was wonderful to hear. All right, I think next up is Julie Runacres. Julie grew up in Leicester, in the UK, and she now teaches English, literature, and creative writing at the St. Paul's Girls' School in London. So it's, maybe she'll tell us, what is it? After midnight there, apparently. Her poetry has been published or is forthcoming in numerous magazines, and she's a member of the Crocodile Collective. So please welcome Julie Runacres.
Thank you very much, and hello from midnight in London. I'm going to be reading a couple of poems from a sequence of 20 poems called 2000 Cerulean. Each one takes as a sort of template the Pantone colours of the year. And if you see the poems on the page, you'll see that each has a little colour swatch and then the Pantone descriptor for that particular year. And the prose poems themselves grow out of the events of that year, which are often in tension with the descriptors in what I found to be quite intriguing ways. So the first one is 2013. 2013 Pantone 175641, emerald. A vivid, verdant green, the perception of emerald is sophisticated and luxurious. Since antiquity, this magnificent hue has been the colour of beauty and, in many cultures, new life. Kalpona actor photographs her clothing finds in Bangladesh and sends her pictures around the world. She sources them direct from factories, burnt out or collapsed, takes care to snap the labels like she's putting stuff on eBay. At Tazreen Fashions, the fire broke out on the ground floor, but security locked the door. They had a big order on. Many of the clothing scraps are charred or otherwise damaged. Sumia Bedin jumped from floor 3 so her family could identify her body. At Rana Plaza, the west side was cutting, middle sewing, east was buttons. When the cracking started in cutting, the workers rushed to buttons. Everything tilts south. Human sandwich picked over for weeks. In 2021, Benetton launches its Green Bee project, trailed as green like the logo, B like the initial, but also like to be and be. A small industrial collaborative insect, its absence 2015 Pantone, 18-14-38, Marsala, is an earthy wine red, an impactful, full-bodied and elegant grounded statement. India forces its way beneath the Himalaya at 0.7 inches per year. Gorkha, Nepal. Ground surface moves 23 feet south, 3 feet vertically up. Ruins. Palmyra, Syria. ISIL tortured the keeper of an antique land who told them nothing. His bleeding body hangs from a traffic light. Near it, on the sand, half sunk, his still bespectacled visage lies, whose butchers, masked with sneers of cold command, destroyed these lifeless things which yet survive. And on a placard their words appear, apostate and infidel, by the hands that mocked him and the hearts that fed. His name was Khaled al-Assad. He was 82. Nothing beside remains. Round the rubble of this colossal wreck, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Thank you.
Thank you so much for staying up so late and sharing those amazing pieces. Thank you so much. Beautiful to hear. All right, our next reader is Mary Newell. She teaches creative writing at the University of Connecticut in Stamford. She's the author of 2 chapbooks, Resurge and Tilt, Hover and Veer, and her poems have appeared in numerous journals and anthologies. She's also the co-editor of Poetics for the More Than Human World, an anthology of poetry and commentary, which, what a great title. You have great titles, Mary. So please welcome Mary Newell.
Thank you, Marjory, and thanks to Black Earth Institute and to About Place Journal. It's wonderful to be reading with all of you. I'm just reading one poem. I'm going to give a little background for those who haven't been reading Bibles because you're too busy reading the news, which I recommend, but nevertheless, Abraham was the father of Ishmael, who was considered the progenitor of Mohammed, and of Isaac, who was the grandfather of the 12 tribes of Israel. And since Christianity sort of emerged out of Judaism, Abraham is the common father of the 3 main monotheistic religions. And the only other background, probably I would say, is that the Golden City is Jerusalem, which houses sites that are sacred to each of these religions. Say Eve left first, right away, doesn't like remonstrance. Did she invite the serpent to hiss chthonic wisdom, or did he uncoil and slither along? We have no record of that moment of decision or avoidance. Adam hung back, sulking. Wasn't all this meant to be his? She went on, planted a garden with a tree, an apple tree, or was it an apricot? Generous with the fruit, Eve kept only a third. Of the rest, she gave half to Ishmael's progeny and half to those of Isaac. They planted the pits. Trees grew and thrived, but not together. Sky god worshippers in warring assemblies, firm in dissonant truths from Abraham's split heritage, pilgrimage to the shared partitioned golden locus, their prayers transected by grudges and grief. Scent of fruit trees in bloom wafts across borders. One day, a honeybee from some struggling hive buzzed from one tree to another, cross-pollinated across barbed wire. And so a tree grows that doesn't remember bloodshed. Who will eat that fruit, and what knowledge imbibe? Thank you.
Beautiful reading. Thank you so much, Mary. So beautiful. I love hearing this work. It's just so much fun for me. So next is Pamela Uschuk, who's where are you, Pamela? There you are. Who I got to know when I was out at the gathering in Wisconsin. She is the editor-in-chief of Cutthroat, a journal of the arts, and a senior Black Earth Institute fellow. She lives in Colorado and Tucson, Arizona. She has 8 books of poems out: Crazy Love, winner of an American Book Award, and Refugee, which I think just came out this year and was just chosen by Orion magazine as one of the 14 best books of the year. Excellent. Her work is translated into more than a dozen languages, and her work appears in many, many publications. She's just finished a multi-genre memoir titled Hope's Crazed Angels, an Odyssey Through Ovarian Cancer. So please welcome Pamela Uschuk.
Thank you. I need to unmute myself. Something's going on with my picture here. Let me see if something happens. There we go. Okay, thank you very much, Black Earth Institute. Thank you, Marjory, and thank you, Coleman and Orchid, for editing this wonderful edition. And thank you, everybody who's reading today. I'm really enjoying the diversity of the voices. And I think that's what makes a journal strong, is that diversity. Okay, my first poem is called Watching the Geminid Meteor Shower. All through desert day, meteors burn out their lives in air that keep us alive. Winter that is not winter sees snowless peaks nestle under starched blue, the color of a glacier's heart. I think of cousins stirring from low log houses at 50 below to break ice from horse noses, preparing to ride out through Kamchatka snow, deep as the memory of wolves, lifting songs to stars that fall across scent trails left by ermine and voles. Night by Arctic night, that is Arctic day, tilts its shadowy face from the vanished sun, while shooting stars sear across our retinas and our planet hums through a meteor's disintegrating tail. Beneath glaciers breaking into the sea, belugas flow like ghosts, their smiles unmistakably kind as they sing old ice songs, open their mouths to a host of krill. On the beach, golden eagles fight with harpies over a fat walrus carcass. Beluga, you resemble my great-grandmother, white kerchief knotted over her summer head. I don't know my Irkutsk cousins, only the name we share that means a whale who spirals down, down, down to the bottom of the sea to evade her enemies, then rises to sing light-filled placid tides. How can she evade the floating acres of plastic and styrofoam islands strangling waves? Across the Pacific, pestilence walks our nation, swinging a smoky censer of disease, ossifying lungs to concrete, killing kidneys, clotting livers, brains, and hearts. 1 million dead and counting. Why not look to the stars so distant their icy poultices comfort our wounds, or meteors that sizzle against loss, crossing midnight through Orion's diamond belt? What did my relatives call this constellation they drew on rock outcrops during the long days of a Siberian June so long ago? Brown Bear standing on his hind legs to reach dark wild honey hived in the crown of night. Do those families bearing my name feel in their deepest dreams a lost cousin in a desert, counting another mass die-off of songbirds, with no sturdy horses to carry her home, calling across shimmering ice fields? My second poem is a poem that's dedicated to the poet Patricia Jabba Wesley, and it's called Where the Emptiness Begins. Walking the dogs in Children's Memorial Park, Peruvian mesquites drape generous lacy shade, where we stroll over the crisp carpet of dead leaves. At the base of an elder, a pool of sap thick as copal and wide as my torso, bark stained black along the trail of tears from the wound where an arborist has cut off a large limb. Who knows how long this tree has cried her timeless grief? I spread my hand where the emptiness begins across my chest, for the 20-year-old son shot and killed by mistake while talking on the phone to his mom. My Liberian friend calls, crying she's scared when her son drives or walks the street after dark. Together we cry and cry until her heart song rises to the canopy of these magnificent mesquite trees, park staff trim, trees that lose limb after limb for our thoughtless walking path past the children's memorial wall, written with the names of thousands of lost sons and daughters, some taken by disease, others drowned, killed in car accidents, at home or by police, by guns or fists, all dead too soon, names etched into granite, polished death as burnished steel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful reading. All right, now we're going to hear from Frank X. Walker. He coined the term Afrolatia, which I associated him with that term and didn't know he coined it. So he co-founded the Afrolachian Poets. He's a Cave Canem Fellow. He's the first African-American writer to be named Kentucky Poet Laureate. He's also professor of English and African-American and Africana Studies and director of the MFA in Creative Writing program at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, where he founded Pluck, the Journal of Afrolachian, am I saying that right? I hope so, Arts and Culture. He's published 11 award-winning collections of poetry, including his latest, Masked Man, Black, Pandemic, and Protest Poems, Turn Me Loose, The Unghosting of Medgar and Isaac Murphy. I dedicate this ride, which he adapted for stage. So please welcome Frank X. Walker.
Thank you. Thank you. Such an honor to be here, to see faces after seeing only the names of many people on this screen. But I'm going to just offer two short poems. Both are poems I consider tributes to two different individuals who I also consider models for me personally as artists and activists. One's a writer, one is a well-known tennis player. I'm sure these names will sound familiar. The first one is for Arthur Ashe, and it's a poem called Set Point. And thank you, Gerald Coleman, for connecting me to this opportunity with About Place Journal. Set Point for Arthur Ashe. Arthur forever opened the open when he took down a different bull, Connors. But his brother Johnny's sacrifice, a second tour of Nam, allowed him the privilege of serving this country on the clay court. It was 1968. They were silencing dissent, forever quieting loud voices like Jackie Robinson before him. He did not strut to the finish line, yet he arrived with his dignity intact. He showed us other ways to win, taught all who would listen that taking break point ends the match if you serve the ball with a cannon or with a subtle slice. The second poem is for Langston Hughes. And he was a famous Kansas person, or as I like to say, Jayhawker. So this is called Jayhawking because it's really about two different gentlemen from Kansas, and you hear about the second one at the end of the poem. Jayhawking for Langston Hughes. In an era when high yellow dandies were all ladies' men in the open, and being a man's man meant something different, I wonder if well put together, well read, well spoken, and well trained and well traveled was enough camouflage to shield you from additional brutality and disdain. Dear Langston, I hope you were as loved in the dark as John Brown was feared in the light. His good Lord wanted us unshackled. Yours wanted all of us free. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, it's so great to hear those two poems. All right, so we have no questions apparently, so we want to try a couple of things now. We're going to give Leath another chance, and a couple of people have also asked if Len could read his poem again because we kind of couldn't hear it in the middle. So we're going to let Leath try it without the camera and see what happens.
Hello.
Ah, here we go. Victory.
All right, so we'll put that technological ineptitude as water under the bridge. I'll read a piece called Gathered in the Clearing, which is a little bit long, so I cut some stuff out of the middle of it. So yeah, Gathered in the Clearing. They gathered in the clearing to ask together the question that forever they had gathered in the clearing together to ask. Of what is this world made? Inchworm inched forward. Like last year and 10,000 before, I traveled hard inching miles to arrive and am honored to speak first. I'm tired. I'm alive with textures belly touched, and I am bellyless, a belly elongated, a tube-shaped dude, and I am a memory of thin grasses, fallen twigs, stems, pebbles, glittering grains of sand, bark bits, dew. Is the world great, rough, smooth distances fused seamlessly in every direction? A mosaic vastness, a circle eternal, a thrilling slog? Deer stamped and snorted, snorted again, stotted, snorted, stotted again. Is the world a spongy bog, a sphagnum recoil, a coiled spring? Is the world a turning head and a noticing? Is the world a quick blink and predator fled? Is the world a daybed and bracken? Is the world an ear swivel and a nose twitch? Is the world a trembling quickness? Is the world my darling spotted fawn? Is the world going, gone? Cold shivered down diagonally, a single white snowflake blinking crystal brightness until alighting on some body's dark steaming flank. It's too hot in this hair and this fur, and I fear my structural integrity is forecast to melt. That is to say, my perfect unique self. That is to say, my crushable health. Oh, never fear, of rheology and transformation I chant in my singular fleeting way. Is the world night becoming day, becoming night, becoming day? Is the world the loss of shape, the form flowing toward fluid, the gentle drifty beauty packed into fern? Is the world a glacier bound to burn? Fire flickered. Is the world an urn? Is the world a pyre? Is the world salt on my tongue as I lick at those who perspire? Let me at those armpits. Let me at your chest. Is the world an engine fueled by my request, my unkillable quest? Laughter laughed. Why'd the chicken cross the road? Is the world the other side? Child whined, thumb in mouth. Wow, 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 what's funny? I miss my mommy. I got an empty tummy. Candy is yummy. My nose is runny. Is the world my stuffy, my soft pink bunny? Is the world my snuggly blankie? Dolphin leaped. Is the world oceanic oneness? Is the world chatty nonsense? Is the world chicka bow wow, shake your booty, let's get disco busy, funky grooves, hop backflip moves off a bow wave? Steam leaped. Stream leaped. Whitewater, whitewater, I am the daughter of gravity, I am the mountain's niece, I am rain's sister. Sky, remember? Remember the night I was born in a storm and the black cracked by electricity? I've got that energy and it's got me. Is the world a sheer drop, a spray and splash, a mad dash? Is the world a froth and catch? Is the world a catchment? Is the world ready for me with an eddy? Is the world waiting with soft granite hands? King came out prancing. My gun is loaded, and my wall is built, and my robe is purple silk, and my scepter is covered in finest gilt. Is the world my oyster to pry the pearl from with opposable thumbs? Is the world my tasty treat? Is it what I decree? Gods linked elbows. We get lonely on our cloud castle, lonely on our peak, lonely without toys, games, playthings. The ambrosia buzz is waning and the habit is hard to kick. Creation, that is. So we kick to shit in our shit kicker boots, the ant's nest, the grand marble arch, the love, the fear, then start fresh there, here, wherever. Is the world an experiment to pass the time? Is the world a flip dime, coin toss? Is the world a whim? Wind groaned. Is the world in need of a cleansing breeze? Is the world a gale that, if you have knees, will bring you to your knees? Coral trumpeted the ancient conch. I am bleached metropolis. I am acidified empire. I am expired. I am inspired to rebuild from the rubble. Is the ship sunk? Is the world in trouble? Is the world soluble? Insoluble? Music clapped, hummed, banged a beat on the party drum. Is the world a minor chord or a major scale run quick through 15 octaves? Is the world tension and release, crescendo and decrescendo? Does it decrescendo, diminuendo, pianissimo, triple forte, dissonance and consonance and a place to rest, resolution? Ghost disappeared. Is the world foggy, fuzzy, receding, retreating? Grandmother sighed. Is the world green plant made milk and white milk made bone and an empty nest, an empty home, an achy lumbar, a family spread far and wide? Dust swirled. My hair is red and my mind aflame, my curiosity untamed. Wild, wild, wild is this wonder in me, and giant is this glee of inquiry. Is the world not accretionary? Is the world not a chorus of layered questions? Is the world not harmony? Can you hear my voice inside your voice, friends? Death boomed. Is the world an end? Birth squeaked. Is the world an end? Echo echoed. Is the world an end? And clearing with a cough, with a clearing of the throat, at last spoke. Enough, enough. My head is spinning. Centrifugally, centripetally, beats me. Is the world filled to brimming? Is the world dizzying? Is the world in the asking? I thank you all sincerely for coming.
Oh, wow, that was worth waiting for, Leath. All right, wow. Len, we're getting some requests to hear your poem again, or maybe you want to read your other poem. It's up to you, but I think we couldn't hear you in the middle of your reading, so it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll read the first one again. Apologies for those of you that heard it, that have to sit through it again. But I'll also read the title this time.
You're back by popular demand, so you have to do it.
So the title again is My South Carolina Concealed Weapons Permit Instructor. Notice that my driver's license mistakenly indicates I am not a Black male. The word black is a gong in the lady's throat. scrapes the walls of her cheeks, cracks her uvula, searches the worn grooved tongue, rolls itself around, a dog learning to scratch its back in tall grass, lolling tongue escaping the beast's mouth through jagged bone. Between us, a steel shadow clutches the instructor's hip, echoing in her laugh where she finds a home. I want to hide in its emptiness, bury my head in its barrel, rest it below the hammer's punch, baptize myself in its imminent fire. She seals my documents with a milky tongue, holds my indigo-stained fingers to the pad, the ink still fresh from my Igbo brethren crushing the plants on Beaufort shores. I'm just up the road from their bones in John's Island sand. I hear their hollow, blade my tongue with their chants, fish my heart with flaming nets, rife with gun smoke, brooding. I am boiling dye, simmering in a cauldron. My stench rises to her nostrils. My ringing hands remember the shot I just aimed, flames just tamed, quenching my people's thunder. No, we are not the same. She feels I will not laugh with her. She releases my soiled fingers. I released her cold shadow. Thank you again.
Thank you for accommodating us, Len. Yeah, that was great to hear. We only have a few minutes, and there's sort of a general question I'll ask the group, and you can jump in. How do you imagine the relationship between your work and your activism? So maybe a couple of people want to speak to that.
I think it's one and the same. It's often one and the same. It's when you speak out in a poem, then you're being active. As a publisher, we publish pieces that are aimed at social justice issues, and almost every single one of the poems that are published in our magazine addresses in a way that's very active these social issues. So I don't think they're separate entities.
I also think our teaching is another form of our activism because many of us are teachers. So finding ways to raise awareness of many of these issues with our students through poetry. Like Ross Gay is someone who manages to really bring the feeling of what it's like to be racially profiled in a way that the news can't do it. And then I teach composition, and I find teaching food justice is a way for me to show the connection between climate change and what we eat, because we all have to eat. So teaching is activism.
Yeah. Anybody else want to address that? Those are such great answers, both of them. We only have a couple more minutes anyway. I'm trying to see if there were any more questions. Okay. Well, we only have like a few minutes. So anyone want to say anything? I just want to thank everybody for sending your work in and then agreeing to do this reading. I know it's really busy for those of us who teach. Hope you got your grades in. No, Frank's like, no. What's your deadline, Frank? What?
Monday at 5 p.m. But I've started.
Ooh, you've started? Okay. Well, good luck. Mine were due yesterday at 5 p.m. But and I know it's busy with family and holidays, so it's great that you all showed up, and really want to thank people who listened on YouTube. And Cheryl's giving us a note. Hope to get them in this week. Oh yeah, feel better, Cheryl. So everybody just stay well and stay tuned. We're going to have another reading January 12th, which is, I think, 4 Thursdays from now, give or take. And just thanks again for everybody. Those are just, the readings were spectacular. Let's give everyone a round of applause. And I really appreciate it. And I urge those of you in the audience or listening audience to check out the journal. It's really user-friendly online, so you can read it and look at the amazing art and photographs, and join us back here on January 12th. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marjorie, and all the editors.